from London, wrestling fans. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and you are listening to Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast, your one-stop shop for professional wrestling, insight, news, and reviews on a daily basis. And today is Wednesday, April 17th, 2024, and I am nervous because Arsenal are playing Bayern Munich in about an hour's time, and it is our biggest European football game in many, many years. So I'm very, very nervous indeed, but I'm also excited because tonight is AEW Dynamite, and they have an opportunity to bounce back from that released CM Punk footage mess, which was universally condemned last week. So it's going to be an interesting episode of Dynamite, that is for sure. But let me introduce the panel, and let's kick things off with the co-host of the show, Mr. Clark Taylor. How are you, Clark?
Dude, I'm fired up to be here. I'm nervous for you and my cousin Trev. This is a big game. I know all about it. I've gotten into it. I'm excited for the game, but I'm also excited the first podcast. Hour early start, no worries for me. Ready to roll. I feel like I never got off the mic from off the air last night, so it's just like I've been here the whole time. Basically slept like this.
No days
Let's get
off.
into it.
You are certainly on a roll at the minute. We have Melissa in the chat. Shout out to Melissa. And yeah, we've got quite a few viewers over on Instagram as well. But also joining us today, we have Soul. How are you, Soul?
Lads and lasses, grab yourself a drink and pull up a chair because it is summertime madness here. Good God. Apparently, it's this thing called vitamin D happens. I mean, I'm not familiar with it myself from where I live, but I've got a nice apple juice as well to get that vitamin C. But of course, never mind that big ball of gas in the sky. We are here for AEW Dynamite. A very joyous show indeed, leading up to Dynasty, which I'm sure people are going to absolutely love and enjoy. There's going to be no controversial takes whatsoever. Everyone's going to smile, have fun, but I doubt it, knowing the internet and what the Wrestling Republic universe has been like the last couple of days. That's why I'm here to course correct and put us right back on track.
Oh, well, we'll have to see about that one. And let's just jump straight into it, shall we? Let's talk about Roderick Strong turning on Kyle O'Reilly, because I'm going to be completely, fully, 100% transparent and honest about this. I didn't know it happened until like 2 days later. They did this on Battle of the Belts. I mean, when you're going to do like a big, big angle with Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly, two guys who pretty much every wrestling fan knows have a big history. They had a big history in WWE. I mean, why wouldn't you make this a huge angle on your weekly television product on AEW Dynamite, on the flagship show? Why not? Also, I know they did the thing weeks and weeks ago where Kyle O'Reilly was like, oh, thanks, Roddy, but I think I'm going to do things on my own. Thanks for the offer, though. But between then and now, they didn't really advance this story much in any way. And it just felt very random. And considering how this should be, really big storyline, doing the turn 1 week before a pay-per-view, it feels rushed as well. And I know a few other people as well are saying that they didn't even realize that this happened. It just felt all very rushed and just kind of a bit random, dare I say. I mean, Clark, I'm going to get your take on this one first. What did you think about it?
I have to shout out Shoddy for sure. On Sunday, we had an excellent conversation, not specifically about this turn, but about Battle of the Belts and about Collision. And that Sunday may have potentially been our last Collision review for the foreseeable future. Who knows on that one? But I will say we went over it. We actually enjoyed it. We watched the show in the morning because UFC 300 was on Saturday night, and we really enjoyed Collision. I mean, it was funny because we were like, oh, I guess since we started early enough, do we do Battle of the Belts too? We started talking about it, and if you remember correct, Ben, you were like, hey, you guys can throw in one more topic, basically here when you sent the topics, and we're like, why don't we talk about what's the purpose of Battle of the Belts? Because at this point, and that was where the conversation got really juicy. At this point, Battle of the Belts originally was a special Saturday night thing. And you had Rampage on Friday that was really being pushed. Rampage has been sort of pushed to the back burner at this point, and Collision is a bigger deal, right? If you're going to book 3 hours of wrestling, call it the Battle of the Belts hour, but don't make it like a separate deal. That to me was the goofiest part. Is why is it separated? Because, like you said, a lot of people didn't even realize it happened until 2 days after. I got lucky. We threw in that last hour and weren't even going to talk about it Sunday morning. That's the only reason I saw it within 24 hours of it happening. And that is no knock. I was going to watch all 3 hours of the show eventually. But if it wasn't for the fact that we were talking about it Sunday morning, I would have missed it till Monday myself. And that's an issue for sure. I like the storyline, and it, like you mentioned, it should be a huge deal. It's Roddy Strong and it's Kyle O'Reilly, and it should be a huge deal. It should be something that's pushed towards the upper mid card for Dynasty for the near future. Like it should be, but that's not what it's been. And that's one thing that's a little bit frustrating. I think absolutely it's a problem that can be solved. I don't know exactly how. I don't know exactly how, but it can be. I don't have a great idea. I wish I did.
Some solution.
There's something. There's something definitely there.
Brainiac.
Because it is Roddy and O'Reilly, and it should be a big blood feud and match. We've seen what they can do in NXT. Both have looked excellent since making the move over to AEW. You can't take that away from either guy, especially KOR since his return. I loved the way that he returned, and it wasn't so obvious what he was going to do. And I just missed that guy. His jiu-jitsu and grappling acumen. I'm a huge Kyle O'Reilly fan. So like I would love to see him potentially carry the title that Roddy is. But I don't know. I wish it happened on maybe Dynamite, or even if they'd done it on Collision, it would have made actually more sense to me, despite the fact that I think the way you would promote it would be that Battle of the Belts is supposed to be a bigger deal. It doesn't come across that way at this point. It doesn't come across that way at this point. And that would be my only complaint. I still love the product. When watching it, I still love all of it. Right? It's not, I don't want to be hypercritical about AEW. It's not a gigantic knock, but there's got to be a solution there, because it was fluky how you could easily miss, especially counter programming against UFC 300. Basically, you could easily miss that Battle of the Belts hour, not realize it's on. If you DVR the show, you're DVRing the first 2 hours. The third hour, which is Battle of the Belts, doesn't get DVR'd. Call it the Battle of the Belts hour on Collision and extend the show to 3 hours, and let's call that a day. I don't know if that's possible contractually, but that's the closest to a solution I can think of.
Yeah, I mean, they've got to find something, because you are right. It's a completely pointless thing right now. Makes no sense whatsoever. And I think Anthony Manzano's got an interesting point too, because he's saying, to be honest, I don't think Tony planned it correctly. I don't think he expected to have Collision to begin with.
Right.
And yeah, and I mean, I agree too. I think that the return of the Battle of the Belts was meant to be the return of professional wrestling on Saturday night. And it worked for I say it worked for the longest time. It didn't. Out of the gates, they just failed to make it feel important.
Great matches, though, on those early Battle of the Belts cards. There were really good ones.
And I've said this about AEW over and over and over again. And every time people are like, oh, no, great matches. I'm like, unless there's great stories, nobody cares. And what evidence do I have to back that up? The viewership.
But the one that I would mention, Battle of the Belts wise, is I do believe one of the Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker matches happened on Battle of the Belts, and I think that was probably the best Battle of the Belts singles match, if I remember correctly. I believe that was a Battle of the Belts main event one year, like early.
One of the best Battle of the Belts matches that come to my mind is Sammy Guevara versus Dustin Rhodes for the interim TNT Championship.
Great call. That was a very, very good belt to belt match as well. I may be wrong on Rosa Baker. They may have built it on belts and then done it on Dynamite.
I can't seem to remember, to be honest with you. They did it on the St. Patrick's Day Slam, and they did it on
Dynamite. That was Dynamite. Okay.
Yeah,
that's right.
But so I'd love to get your thoughts on this Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong situation.
Of course, absolutely. And obviously, I was at Revolution when Kyle came back, and a lot of us were shocked because we didn't recognize him at all. He looked completely different. That was a bit of a surprise there. But I've always enjoyed Kyle. He's always been that fun kind of character. You look at ROH days and even with NXT, with the Undisputed Era, the matches against like AOP where they would body slam him, he'd stand up and roar and then just collapse over and have a bit of a laugh. He's been a fun, entertaining character, even with his matches in the Owen Hart Classic, I think, or it was Bobby Fish, maybe. They both shine those kind of wrestlers. I don't mind this kind of feuding because there is a story to it, and there's also a long-term story for that. For your hardcore fans that, you know, watch these guys for the longest time, they're going to get callbacks to Undisputed Era, how Kyle was kind of pushed after the implosion of that group, matches against Finn, and then the Adam Cole matches on the way out for Adam. So he's always been an entertaining wrestler to watch and been pushed very well. This could easily be a summer thing for that. There's more to tell with this. It doesn't have to be a one and done thing at Dynasty. They can continue on. They could have another match down the line. There could be a trios match if Kyle wants to recruit some guys. Personally, I think, which would be really entertaining to happen, have Roddy beat Kyle at Dynasty. The Undisputed Kingdom are beating him down. You know, Dance Away by Damn Valentine's plays and Bobby Fish comes back. We could get Red Dragon back again. Because imagine we could get Red Dragon versus Undisputed Kingdom. If you want to put the ROH belts on the line, you could absolutely do that, and then have maybe someone like Wardlow, you know, fail to save it. Red Dragon take the titles. That leads to Adam Cole kicking Wardlow out. Wardlow could align with Red Dragon for a wee little bit to continue the storyline there. Then even have an Adam Cole Wardlow feud off that as well. There's many things you could go from this. Obviously, it depends if Bobby Fish comes back. You know, he has been teasing things on his Instagram, posting Edge and Christian Cage with him and Kyle, and just being like the fun that could be and stuff like that. He has been doing little subtle teases, but I think everyone does that with it's wrestling. We always like to have a bit of a yarn and a laugh. But the thing about Battle of the Belts, I'll get into that. The thing is, if you have shows where nothing happens and then everyone was like, oh, well, there's no point to listen, and then you put in a little cheeky surprise, it does kind of entice, well, I could watch this, but then I couldn't, but I could miss something. It's like when people say, oh, that match was killer. Why was it on Rampage? And I'm pretty sure Nyla Rose said, well, you know, does it always have to be on Dynamite? There could be a killer match on Rampage. There could be a killer story that's going on Collision. You can have things like, look at the Zack Knight and Saraya and Harley Cameron with Angelo and Ruby Soho. That's a storyline that's basically 100% been built on Rampage, and it's spread a wee bit to Collision as well. So it shows that, you know, things can be built on the different shows and all that. It doesn't have to be Central Dynamite because it's all where it started. If you continue to entice surprises and builds, you know, things that can happen on other shows as well, it can entice people to, you know, to watch the other shows. But then there will be an audience that, well, I just want to watch where it started in the main product. Like, I can imagine there's WWE fans that will only watch Raw because Raw's been the longest thing for the longest times. Yeah, they'll know what SmackDown is, but they want to watch the one that originated and started it all. That's just how some people are. They just want to watch where it all begins. They don't care about the byproducts. They just want to stay with the original, you know, source of everything. And that's fine in itself. But I absolutely have no problem, because Battle of the Belts has been something that I think wasn't essentially needed, but it was always enjoyable to have at the start. When Dark and Dark Elevation were around, it was extra content for real hardcore fans to consume. With Dark and Dark Elevation, you know, going away, I wouldn't be, I honestly 100% wouldn't be disappointed if Battle of the Belts ended. You know, if at the end, I would have no loss of it. But it's always something to give things to develop, like what we had with Roderick and Kyle. More opportunities and TV time for things to build and develop on not just the main card shows like a Dynamite or a Collision. It shows that, you know, things can develop across all TV time that AEW has. Now, I hope that we can have Battle of the Belts and, you know, maybe blow-off matches could happen, you know, within the name Battle of the Belts. If we've got a feud going on, like maybe with Athena or Okada has something going on with their titles, and they can then end it at the Battle of the Belts and give it a main opportunity reason to exist, then that's fine. But as a hardcore fan, obviously, I wouldn't lose sleep if Battle of the Belts was, you know, sleepily put into the bin or just put into retirement.
Yeah, no, I don't blame you one bit there. And to be honest with you, Salt, I agree with a lot of what you said. The one thing I kind of disagree with, and it's not even I disagree with, it's just adding something to your point about, you know, you need things to happen on shows for people to watch it. You are bang on correct about that 100%. But you need to give people a reason to watch. You need to be advertising these things hard on Dynamite. saying, hey, this is a huge match, you need to see it. Because you're also right, a lot of people only have time to watch Dynamite. So if you want to try and get them to spend their valuable time watching another show, you need to give them a reason why before the show happens. Otherwise, they might never find out about it. And you are also right, with WWE, they have the exact same issue. But what they do to counter that is replays on the TV product. And sometimes people complain about the amount of replays, but the fact is they work. And it keeps fans up to date, and it's been proven. And there's a reason why they still do them. But now let's move on, and let's move on to talk about another controversial topic. We're jumping straight back headfirst once again into another debate because, well, there's been this partnership between AEW and New Japan now for a couple of years. We've seen the Forbidden Door blown off the hinges. Well, a bit of a question's come up lately, and that is, has this deal actually been beneficial to New Japan at all, or has it just been beneficial to AEW? And from a short-term perspective, I'd say, well, it's helped AEW a lot. Well, sorry, New Japan a lot. But now we're a couple of years into it, and AEW have taken 3 of New Japan's top guys in Jay White, Okada, and Will Ospreay. So much so that New Japan have felt the need to have to bring in an AEW guy in Jon Moxley and put their main World Championship on him because they're not selling enough crowds because all their top stars have gone. All the top stars who they built, they've left, right? And let's be real about it. A lot of people said, well, Will Ospreay might have gone to WWE if it wasn't for AEW. Well, would he have? Because he's made it clear that he wouldn't leave the UK. And WWE have made it clear that they require you to live in the US. So I actually think he would have ended up signing in New Japan again if it wasn't for this. And I mean, listen, completely fair to the performers, chase the bag, chase the money. But for New Japan, has this deal actually been beneficial? Clark, I'd love to get your thoughts.
So I'm going to start with, I don't think it's hurt New Japan directly. Indirectly, as you presented there, a lot of talent moving over to AEW is interesting, but I don't think that has anything to do with the partnership. It's not like, hey, we're partners and now I get Jay White.
All 3 have said that the conversations they've had during Forbidden Door have been been factors in why they signed.
Totally, which is fair, but at the same time, it's not a part of the actual partnership. And I do think the partnership has been mutually beneficial because we get to see performers from either side walk through that Forbidden Door and go perform on the other show. And so sending Jon Moxley, an absolute total main eventer in every way possible, over to main event, I don't think hurts New Japan. I don't think it does, especially considering the card happened in Chicago, not in Japan. So he'll go to Japan and probably defend the title and lose it, make someone look outstanding. But in Chicago, that crowd was raucously behind Jon Moxley. I don't think that hurts New Japan's product in any way. A hot crowd cheering for the guy that ends up winning the title, that on paper in and of itself isn't an issue. Now, long run, like you said, is where it gets a little dicey. If it continues to feel like it's a feeder system for AEW, that's where we run into trouble. I don't think that will be the case, but I understand also people who have sat here and thought, that's how I feel about it, that are huge New Japan fans going like, look, we lost Jay White, we've lost all these big names. But at the same time, all those people, all of us, were excited to see Moxley, Jericho, all the names that went to New Japan and perform there. So it is such a push-pull thing. And it's one of those situations where you'd almost have to ask somebody that's strictly a New Japan fan. And as like a fan of both and living in America, I see less New Japan than I do AEW. It's hard for me to give a definitive answer on whether or not it's really helped New Japan itself. I feel like New Japan's kind of stayed the same other than losing the talent. And it's a bit of a coincidence that it surrounds Forbidden Door Week and AEW. But I mean, convenience is convenience, right? Like if they're in the same room, they're going to have those conversations. That's just life. But yeah, that's a tough one to answer.
It is a tough one, Clark. I do agree with you. And I mean, I watch New Japan very regularly. And I mean, they have got a few youngsters who are coming up through the ranks right now who are really, really hot. But for the most part, crowds are down. And I mean, it felt like this time last year they were on a bit of a run. It really did feel like, hey, this is the revival in New Japan. They're coming back from the pandemic. But then they lost Okada and Ospreay, which has been huge, huge blows to them. Naito was hotter than ever, but of course, he's now lost it to Moxley. You are right. He's going to go over to New Japan. It's going to be great for New Japan, but short term, it's not like he's now signed with New Japan.
Right.
The only way at any point in this relationship is help New Japan is in the short term. Long term, it seems to have harmed them, in my personal opinion, every time. But Soul, I would love to get your thoughts on this situation. Do you think that this has been an issue? Or do you think that, nah, this is fine and it'll help New Japan in the longer term?
I think it's been absolutely fine. 100%, honestly. I honestly think it's been 100% fine. Before I talk about AEW, let's talk about how things are with New Japan, obviously. New Japan have had deals with TNA. I know because they've had ABC represent Bullet Club, and Jay White went over when he was never openweight champion. But if you were to compare that to what AEW done for them, it's absolutely minuscule. You know, we haven't really seen TNA stars going over to do New Japan or win New Japan titles and showcase it on the TNA product. Even something like WWE as well. WWE took, you know, Prince Devitt, Finn Balor, AJ Styles, the OC, Shinsuke Nakamura, and like they never really went over and done stuff for New Japan. Obviously, that was under Vince's era where things were very different. If that happened now with what Charlie Dempsey's done and all that, and Shayna Baszler, maybe it would have been different. We can't tell, obviously, because, you know, that was in the past. With AEW, you know, they allowed New Japan to have basically their own show, a part of their pay-per-view calendar with Forbidden Door, where New Japan talent get highlighted. Sanada was, you know, Jay White when he was under contract, Ospreay when he was under contract, Takagi's been there, you know, United Empire as well been there. So there's been a lot of New Japan talent that have been showcased, not only just on a pay-per-view, which is a main thing to allow talent from another company to be showcased on, and a pay-per-view that's 100% dedicated to it, but even the ongoing Dynamite product and Collision product itself. You know, Ishii's been there. People have been done for Ring of Honor as well coming over. They've mentioned, you know, New Japan title lineage as well. You know, Willow Nightingale as well was the inaugural New Japan Strong Women's Championship, obviously because Mercedes Moné got injured on that, but they allowed her to have the belt. They didn't, you know, just keep the finish and allow it on Mercedes to then vacate it. She did it, She appeared with it on Forbidden Door 2023 and then went over to Japan to drop it to Julia. Eddie Kingston as well. They allowed him to come over and, you know, have that belt and win the New Japan Strong belt off Kenta, then formed the Continental Crown with it as well. So allowing him to do that with that title, they must have some sort of trust within AEW to allow them to do that. Now, obviously, yes, they have lost massive stars like Okada, Ospreay, White. So the thing is, though, yes, you lose a star, but then it's your responsibility to build up. You can't 100% put your reliance on another company to be your backbone. You know, you don't have a backbone, you ain't going to succeed much. And if you put all your faith in, well, AEW is going to get us all the exposure and all the things and all this and that, then you're not really building your own thing. It's your responsibility at the end of the day to build your own product and build your own stars and why fans want to see it. You can't just be known as the company.
The devil's advocate argument is they have built up their own stars, and then AEW have used the relationship to be able to, you know, poach them.
Well, the thing is, though, they can always come back. There's an opportunity because we've seen big stars like Bryan Danielson. You know, he beat Okada and tapped him out on Forbidden Door, and then Bryan goes over to, you know, New Japan home turf, and he ended up losing to Okada. And, you know, Moxley as well. I think Moxley, someone who's had a long history with New Japan, and the stuff he's done there, building up, you know, Shota Umino, who I think is going to be the next top star for New Japan, to give them the title, that shows an exceptional amount of trust within Moxley and a love from the New Japan offices. And he's going to be defending the belt in Japan as well. He's advertised for dates as well. I mean, look at Jack Perry as well. He went over to New Japan, I think, honestly, AEW's first true excursion star, someone who's went over and to build himself, reinvented himself with the Scapegoat, joined House of Torture. Their shirt's the number one thing selling on the New Japan store. So someone from AEW went over and got them a bit of money. So there's something right there. He's getting
that's true
exceptional reactions as well. Obviously, he is under AEW contract, but he's lost some as well. He's lost, I don't know if it was the Battle of the Super Juniors or the G1. It was a tournament thing that Perry ended up losing to
the New Japan Cup.
yeah, he ended up losing in that as well. He lost on the Winter Valley Riot show as well. And thing about as well, Nick Nemeth, he signed to TNA. He's the global champion. So they put the belt on somebody from TNA, and I don't see anyone throwing a big fit. I mean, to be fair, yes, it's not the main world championship, so I can understand that bit of tizzle right there. But he's still another person from another company holding essentially a new integrated title that was just put on David Finlay, who was built up, and then it was just sort of like yanked away from him. And of course, as well, there was Matt Riddle.
That's true. That's a good point.
Yeah.
And then Matt Riddle beat Tanahashi, and then just to lose to Zack Sabre Jr. pretty much, I think, a month or two later. So I don't think this is an AEW problem. I think there's a New Japan problem with that. They see that the American stars as the big name, as the big followers that they have, and they want to have the belt be put on somebody that has that worldwide appeal. And that's fine in itself, but at the end of the day, you do have to build your own stars. And if they get pinched, I mean, it's just the nature of the business. Look what's going on with Marigold and Rosie. They've been pinching everybody left and right. I mean, it's sadly just the nature of the business. But I mean, look, we're going to get Forbidden Door this year. We're going to have New Japan stars advertised. I honestly think Moxley should hold it until Forbidden Door. And if I had to pick who to lose it to Shota Umino. Have him be that new rising star to beat his mentor, the teacher versus the student story, and have Shuto have that belt and go on a young lion run. Have that young boy defeat the old Moxley and just let him go. Let Shuto shoot and let him run wild.
I like that.
Absolutely. No, that's a great shout. I completely agree. I'm agreeing with you a lot today, Saul, to be honest. I agree with a lot of what you said there as well. But now let's move on, because something else I think a lot of people will agree with me on is how great Next Level are. And if you guys don't know Next Level, let me give you a little bit of a background, right? Basically, we all know on social media nowadays, there's so many links. You might be trying to find our Twitch page or our YouTube page or maybe our Twitter, and it's difficult to find them. Well, Next Level have put all our links in one easy, accessible place, our Next Level Connect link. And not only that, not only can you see all our content across all platforms all linked in one place using that link, you can also see exclusive wrestling content on their app as well. They're building a wrestling community on there. And hey, just in case that wasn't enough, they're also giving away a 40 years of WrestleMania WWE 2K24 edition. 2 copies of that they're giving away for free. All you got to do is go to nxconnect.me/Wrestling Republic, scroll to the bottom, hit that link saying enter giveaway, and it'll tell you what to do. It's really easy. It's completely free. This app is completely free. There's no catch to it whatsoever, guys. Seriously, all our links all in one place. It's just perfect. It makes your life easier. It makes our life easier. It's free. You can win free stuff, and it's free content. It's a no-brainer, an absolute no-brainer. But now let's move on, because Soul, I'm going to bring you straight back in, actually, because I want to talk to you about something for a minute, because we all spoke at length last week about the All-In footage. I'm sick of talking about it. I don't want to talk about it. I'm sure Clark doesn't want to talk about it. But somebody who did not talk much
I just want to hear Soul. Yeah. Sorry.
Somebody who didn't talk much about it was Soul, because I'll give you guys a little look behind the curtain at Wrestling Republic. We have a Wrestling Republic group chat, right? And usually Soul's very active in it, right? Usually it's me and Clark debating about something such as a logo on clothes or something like that. That was yesterday's
textiles debate. Argument.
Yeah, textiles. This is all the fun that happens. Maybe me and Archie are arguing about football, Arsenal and Chelsea and all that stuff. But Soul, you're usually quite active in this group chat. But towards the end of last week, you went almost radio silent. And the only thing you said was TK, you F-word up. Soul, I'd love to get your takes on the CM Punk All-In footage being shown on last week's episode of Dynamite.
Oh, what was that? Sorry, I wasn't listening. Sorry. I'm kidding. Look, can I plead the fifth? Can I just plead the fifth?
That got me so good.
Can I plead the fifth? Look, please, can I just plead
No, admit it, he messed up. Admit it. Your Lord and Savior
That
messed
was
up.
outstanding.
Let me have a drink. My apple juice.
Yep.
Right. So the day before it happened, the Dynamite happened, right? I couldn't watch it live because of work. So I was like, I'll go to bed, I'll wake up. I honestly thought it would have been like if anything, I thought it was going to be maybe seriously a bad or a jokey thing. Went to bed, woke up. I didn't even look at Reddit or the Instagram. I just went to the Dynamite episode, started watching. And when I got to the segment with the Young Bucks, and I was kind of watching it, enjoying it, but when the actual footage appeared, I don't know what it was. It was kind of like an moment, like secondhand embarrassment. Honestly, it felt like that because I was just watching it and I was kind of like I wasn't in really the camp of people like I want to see this. I want to see what happened. I want to see the haymakers being thrown. I want to see people being choked out. I want to see some TMZ World Star stuff going down. I wasn't in that camp. I really didn't care. I just wanted to move on and have enjoy the product and stuff like that. But when I saw it, I was honestly like, that's it. Like I've seen worse scraps in a nightclub in Glasgow at 2 a.m. I've seen somebody actually get pulled up by their pants and slammed onto a glass pane in a nightclub on a table. So I've seen some weird shit. Sorry, I've seen some weird stuff, right? But it really was just secondhand embarrassment. I really didn't see the need for it. Like I understand they kind of incorporated it into FTR, like being like they're using their powers and all that and trying to blame things on other situations that happened here and let's move on. I didn't necessarily think they needed that. I can understand where they were trying to do it was. Now, like I said before, that apple juice is flying back. Like I said before, if it was TK doing an interview with JR, I would have had a massive problem with that because that would have been absolutely corny and anything and terrible. I personally I think, thank God it's just out there and people can make their own assumption now. And here's the thing with
it's not out there now. They're taking it down everywhere.
Well, you can just watch Dynamite to re-see it because it's there. So, hey, fair dues. But here's the thing. It's happened.
They edited it out on some versions.
Well, look, here.
I've got a DVR.
Happened.
I can still see it.
I got Fight TV. I can watch anytime I bloody well please. Look, it's happened. It's done. And nobody's really talking about it now. You'll get the casual troll. You'll get the trolls in the comments saying this and this and that. But at the end of the day, I've honestly, I kind of forgot it happened. I was just more excited to see what's happening with Dynasty and Dynamite and Collision. It's happened. Okay, cool. Moving on. I was embarrassed for myself on the AEW. This was not the right move in my personal opinion. But then, you know what? A couple days later, I was like, all right, cool. Let's just move on, proceed. I'm happy for All In coming again this year. I'm really excited for that trip and things what I'm sure we'll get up to. There's going to be plenty of fun and hilarity and wallets being drained because it's $10.50 a pint in Wembley, for bloody sake. It happened. I had secondhand embarrassment. I couldn't believe they did it, and I thought it really wasn't as bad as it said it was. Was it what Punk said? Pretty much. Now there's going to be some people release the audio, but it's not going to make any difference, honestly. There's seen the audio.
It's CCTV.
Yeah, that's on the Patreon. We've got to pay the exclusive version on Patreon for that, or maybe an release for it. Look, it's happened. It's done. Let's go on. It's out there, and people can make their own mind up. Big whip.
Yeah, exactly. Until it gets taken down off everything, which I think kind of explains that the fact that, hey, they've realized they messed up. Hopefully they do move on. And hopefully Wembley put their pint prices down too. It's extortion.
Hey, by the way, £10 is nothing. It's $15 at a Laker game.
That's pretty. It's like
is that about
$14? It's
about the markup that much?
Yeah.
We getting killed that bad? Over here in the States,
pretty much. But let's now talk about the women's division because I feel I'm being a bit overly negative with AEW on this show. Because okay.
I'm sorry. I've
enjoyed their product lately, but once again, heading into this pay-per-view, I've not enjoyed the build for Thunder Rosa and Toni Storm. It's kind of felt like it's on the back burner to tons of other storylines, like the one that they had last week, and then of course the Deonna Purrazzo stuff as well. And tonight on Dynamite, They're doing Parazzo versus Mariah May, and I'm excited to see this as a match, but I also hope they make time to really showcase the Toni Storm and Thunder Rosa segment as well. But Deonna Purrazzo has come under a lot of criticism for her in-ring work in AEW this far, and tonight is an opportunity to change that narrative when she faces Mariah May. Clark, what are your thoughts heading into this one?
So I will say, we discussed the Collision thing earlier in the show. Shad and I watched Collision. Thunder Rosa's promo explaining like her injury, her motivation, and all of that hooked me in as far as the rivalry with Toni Storm. I'm in. I like it. It was the most real Thunder Rosa you've heard yet, describing her struggles of coming back, describing her motivations. She hit who, what, when, where, and how consecutively and nailed them all on the button. And that's something that I really enjoyed because it was super real and from the heart. And given Tony's character being so over the top, that sort of oil and water rivalry, I really, really like. As far as Purrazzo and Mariah May is concerned, this one's really interesting to me because you would think Deonna would be one of the bigger signings. I understand a little bit of the in-ring criticism, but I think it's too harsh. Mariah May has been sublime since she's been with AEW. Mariah May has looked as good as anyone can look. Not only that, character work-wise, next to Toni Storm, playing a tough role against somebody who already stands out, to stand out in that role is super impressive, not to be taken away from Mariah. So this is a match I think Mariah needs to win because we need to get to Mariah May and Toni Storm almost as quickly as possible. I do not think that the pairing can last long enough because it's star and star. And you see them stand next to each other and they're starting to feel way too close to exact equals. And so it's time to push Mariah May. I think Deonna puts on an unbelievable match here, shuts everybody up that says all the bell-to-bell stuff, but does take the loss. I think it makes the most sense. She puts on an unbelievable bell-to-bell match. Mariah May goes over. Along the way, Mariah May and Tony, maybe something at this show, at this pay-per-view, maybe some tension starting to be shown at Dynasty between May and Toni Storm. But that's the direction I would go. It's to me, it's about Tony and Mariah in that eventual singles match, because I don't think we can sustain the partnership for this long with both of them looking like absolute stars next to each other every single week.
I think you've got to try, if you can, to push it all the way through for the eventual match to happen in late August at Wembley Stadium. Because, I mean, Mariah May in front of her, you know, she's from London. That's literally a home territory for her. I think that would be absolutely fantastic. But I'm going to have to show a comment here because we have our good friend Suki
I miss you,
in the
Suki.
comments. And he is saying, do you guys see any more Stardom talent coming in after Mina came to Dynamite last week? I 1000% think that's going to happen now, especially with the Marigold and WWE potential relationship as well. I think that is going to be one to keep an eye on for absolute certainty. But Clark, I want to jump into talking about something that I am hyped for tonight, and that is Will Ospreay, Claudio Castagnoli. Now, I bet what you think I'm going to say is, there's no story here. They shouldn't be doing this. But actually, I think this makes enough sense, if I'm being completely honest. It's the go-home episode for a pay-per-view, and Will Ospreay is facing Bryan Danielson. Claudio and Bryan Danielson are in the same faction, so it makes sense. It makes enough sense to do, and I'm excited for it. I am. I think it's going to be a banger of a bout. There it is, the banger of the bout, and I'm really excited for it. I truly, truly am. I mean, Dream Match gets overused, but this is certainly up there with them. I'm excited to see it for sure. It's the thing I'm most looking forward to tonight on AEW Dynamite, and I think they're going to blow us away. But what are your thoughts, Clark?
Okay, honestly, my immediate reaction when I saw it was like, wait a minute. And this is no knock on Bryan Danielson, but if they were given the same time and same build, this might be the better match. Will Ospreay and Claudio,
I agree there.
Matchup wise is crazy to me because Will can break out a lot more of his agility the agile part of his moveset in a way that against Danielson, it'll be, speed and arguably the power guy in that match is Ospreay.
Yeah.
And working on the side of Claudio, styles make fights, the old cliche, right? And so I'm not trying to say Bryan Danielson is one of the best in the world. I have no doubt that they will deliver on Sunday. No doubt in my mind. And that is not at all what I'm saying. But when I saw this, I was like, wait a minute. Will Claudio is so tantalizing. So tantalizing. I'm just hoping that nobody gets hurt. Because in all seriousness, this thing bell to bell, and seriously, knock on wood, that is the last thing we want here is any injuries, because this is going to be a slugfest and they're going to go all the way to the wall. It doesn't matter if it's a go home show or not. That's what they're going to do tonight. Claudio knows he's got this opportunity against Ospreay to show truly how great he is. Ospreay goes out there and shows how great he is every single time. Not that Claudio doesn't, but I'm just saying that's the kind of the role that Ospreay's been on the last, I don't know, half decade. I'm not a math guy, but I'm just saying.
You hate maths. You got to put the maths streak back to zero now.
Back to zero. Yeah, 0 days since I've done math. But the Will Ospreay and Claudio every week, if you wanted to, if it was possible, in a fantasy world, no worries for me. To me, I'm wondering if this is going to lead to Ospreay working his way all the way through the Blackpool Combat Club, and we end up maybe fresh off of a IWGP title loss, an Ospreay and Moxley matchup / rivalry later in the year. That would be something that I would sign me up. Pretty much anything Will Ospreay does other than cut cheap promos about Triple H, I'm excited about lately in AEW. Other than that one, you could pretty much have him wrestle almost anyone on the roster, and I would be excited. But to have Claudio followed by Danielson and then the potential of a Moxley matchup down the road, who am I to complain about any of that?
We have @Carrion_cross_era on Instagram saying Clark loves Tony Clown. Tony Clown.
Ooh, wow, that's weird.
No, that's a heretic.
Either.
That's a heretic. Got to burn the heretic.
Funnier.
I don't really care. I don't really care about Tony Khan. I like the wrestling though.
Whoa. Clark.
No, I'm just saying, it doesn't, he doesn't wrestle. He's not on TV other than mostly announcements.
We got somebody else in the chat called Nachuri who's saying he's a fan from Spain. Hello, welcome to the chat.
Hola.
And he thinks John Cena is the greatest of all time. Certainly an argument to be made. I mean, this Carrying Cross cosplay account is absolutely loving these troll comments. But now let's move on. And he is clearly a fan because he's commenting. You can't watch the show and comment without being a fan.
Gotta love it.
That's what I always say about the matter. Thank you for the view in the comments. We love you too. But so I want to get your thoughts in because I want to know, do you love this tonight? Ospreay, Castagnoli, what are your thoughts?
Of course, how can I not love this? This is going to be an absolutely mental match. Claudio's been killing it since his time in AEW and ROH. He's been absolutely a madman, killing it as always. I think, because he's wrestled Don Callis family, now Claudio going into with Bryan. I wonder if, Clark saying Moxley and Ospreay down the line would be a very interesting thing in itself. But I'm still, because I hope when Mark Davis is healed up, we can get Aussie Open and Ospreay back, and they could have I still want, personally, I still just want unified 6-man titles between the Acclaimed and Bullet Club Gold, just so Bullet Club Gold can win, get the trios titles, then Ospreay versus with Ospreay and Undisputed. Ospreay and Aussie Open versus Bullet Club Gold for the trios titles would be an amazing feud in itself. That's something I would love to see, but I wouldn't be opposed to, if Bryan wins and all that, or I wouldn't be opposed if Bryan was to win against Ospreay, and then it was a mutual respect sort of thing, and then Don Callis family attack Ospreay, you beat your whole family just to lose, how pathetic of you. And then the Dynamite after Dynasty, we can get Ospreay, Danielson, and Claudio versus Hobbs, Takeshita, and Fletcher in a trios match. I think that would be something fun to see. But yeah, I most importantly, I think is Ospreay's had a very hot, time with his first introduction into AEW as a full-time roster member. Where do you go from that is the main question. Do you do the Don Callis family separation to allow him to be his own man, save Fletcher? Do you then go after Okada with the Continental Crown? Because, Ospreay was the one who was really defeated by Okada and never really getting a win much. So that's something you could do as well. Do you go after the world title if Swerve's going to win it? I wouldn't go that quick. Do that at All In, because that's something a lot of fans are going to want to see. Ospreay versus Swerve would be very enjoyable in itself, but there are many opportunities that Ospreay can take after this feud, or after this match with Danielson at Dynasty. So I'm very interesting, but I just hope, he sticks the landing with Danielson match and then just keeps going off and takes off to better heights afterwards. Because I really think it's important that you stick the landing and are able to launch off and continue your flight.
I mean, I agree. I think it will certainly be an interesting one. Also, Ospreay Swerve All In. Take my money. I would love to see that. Mariah May versus Toni Storm and Will Ospreay versus Swerve Strickland. All In. Bang. Double main event. I mean, I've already bought a ticket. So you already have my money, Tony Khan. But take more
I have
more
your
of it.
Well, remember, your ticket's on this little device, so if this goes kaput,
no.
we're screwed.
That's a dangerous game. Indeed. But guys, please use your phones to like, comment, subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to. Give a cheeky 5 stars on Spotify. We'll be back tomorrow at the later start time of 11 p.m. UK, which is 6 p.m. Eastern and 3 p.m. Pacific for Throwback Thursday. As always, Clark, Anthony, and Shard will see you then. And I hope you have a great day. And hopefully, Arsenal will win. I'm getting nervous. See you guys. Peace.